Hey everyone. Today's going to be the first topic, I guess the first video on the topic, what does it mean to be a man? If you prefer reading or like to get the information a week earlier, I post this on my blog. The link will be in the description below. But if you just want to hear it so you don't have to read, I understand that. A lot of my books are audiobooks that I read anymore these days. So, yeah, I hope this is informative and just benefits you. So what does it mean to be a man? I asked this question back in 2008. I was 17 years old, and I was really searching. I really wanted to know what that meant. And I found a book called Wild at Heart, Discovering the Secrets of a Man's Soul. It was written by John Eldredge. And that book had a powerful effect on me. But I think mostly it made me realize I didn't know what it meant to be a man. In fact, I felt like a coward in so many ways. I held a lot of guilt and self-doubt. Guilt, just because I tended to blame myself for things. And so I prayed. And I asked God, please show me what it means to be a man. And I don't know. It was very simple. And over the years, I've continued to pray that. And God has. I've learned a lot from failure, unfortunately. But at least I am grateful that I'm learning. It's easy, at least for me, to want to ignore my problems and pretend like they didn't happen or didn't exist, and confronting them and learning from them is so important to personal growth. But also, I met some really incredible men who helped me in my journey to learning what it means to be a man, and those men, I am confident, have helped me not make more mistakes. So I'm not saying that I'm a pinnacle of masculinity. I'm not this great hero that everyone should listen to. I just have been very focused on learning this, and I've learned some things, and I think I've learned the hard way that some things that I thought were true just aren't. And I hope I can share that to save you some of the heartache of pursuing just empty paths that don't work. So, that being said, before we really start off, I need to set a foundation. And this is going to be uncomfortable, maybe, for some of you. Especially in today's culture, this is a very unpopular opinion. But I believe it to be true, and I believe it to be foundational to what I'm going to be talking about for the next few weeks. So I need to say this, not to be offensive, but because I believe it's true. And it's a part of learning your identity as a man. Being a man is not a choice. If you weren't born with the genetic material required to be considered a male, you cannot be anything else but a male. And vice versa, if you weren't, you cannot become a male. Now, I understand the argument there is a difference between sex and gender. I don't believe that that's true. What I say in my mind, how I feel, doesn't mean things are true. And I'm not saying people don't feel different genders. I do believe that. I 100% believe that people feel like they may be a different gender, okay? But that doesn't change the fact that you're a man if you were born one. And it's accepting that that can be difficult for some people. And I'm confident I'm going to get a lot of backlash, but that's okay. I think it's important enough to say, because some people need to hear that in their own pursuit of wanting to be more of a man. It can be hard. Now, when you're searching for your identity, it's easy to get off track because that's based off your emotions, and it can be very challenging. And that's okay. I understand. I'm not saying that it's not challenging or can't be challenging, and it's more challenging for some people than others. But I think if we stop pursuing this rabbit hole of I can somehow change who I am, we can actually find a lot more fulfillment and happiness out of life. And I don't think it's loving or kind to tell someone that they can change who they are biologically. I don't find that kind at all. I think it creates more problems. But we will get into all of that, the problems and everything else, more later. Right now we're just focusing on the fact that if you're biologically born a male, you are a male, and you can't change it into something else. All right, now I'm going to tell you a story. Kind of lighten it a little bit. So, I was walking through the woods one day, North Carolina woods, and I was on a training mission with an SF group in Station, North Carolina. And I was in charge of carrying the M240 Bravo. Now, for those of you that have not been in the military, the M240 Bravo is a heavy machine gun. It's a light machine gun, but it's heavy. And it's probably I think it's like 27 pounds or something like that. But it feels pretty heavy when you're walking through the woods. Thankfully, you have this big old strap. It's got like this cushion that goes over your shoulders. It just makes it so easy to carry. I had a backpack with 30 rounds, 2 to 300 rounds of linked ammo in there. So I had a little bit of weight in there, not a lot because I wasn't really carrying anything else. And then this machine gun. Well, unfortunately, the machine gun strap broke, which means I had to carry it with my arms instead of my neck and shoulders, and so that's where it became unfortunate. Because what tends to happen, you just want to put it on your arms and hold it like this because you're tired or whatever. You're walking through, you don't feel like that, but that's the wrong answer because now you're just pointing your muzzle at people. It's too high. It's just a bad. That's undisciplined, and you shouldn't do it. So, I'm doing the right thing, especially, I'm training with SF guys. I don't want to, do the wrong thing. But I've done this before. I did it in Ranger School. It sucks, but it's not a big deal. You just hold it how you're supposed to hold it, and point the muzzle where it's supposed to go, and you just do it. So, going through the woods or whatever, and the Command Sergeant Major of the SF group walks by me and notices that my straps broke, notices I'm still kind of holding it, just putting in the extra effort to maintain good muzzle awareness and stuff, and he said, "Attaboy." And it seems really simple and probably a little silly now talking about it, but that was just so inflating to me. Like, I just felt so good after he said that. And I think in my blog I said it was like he poured water on a dry desert of my soul. Like, it was very impactful, and it shocked me at how good it made me feel. And I began thinking about that. I wondered, why was this so huge for me? Like, just a simple attaboy. Like, Why did that impact me so much? And I started realizing is because I had a deficiency there in my masculinity and how I felt as a man. I didn't feel good enough. I was very critical of myself, and when I found something that seemed to support that I could be good enough, that's what I needed. I needed to know that I was good enough, and that just wasn't a truth that I embraced in my life. I didn't think I was good enough. And the reason that surprised me so much is because I done a lot of cool stuff. I joined the military because I wanted to answer that question. I want to be a man. I want to be manly. I want to be good enough. That kind of thing. And and I found after several years of doing that, working really hard, I conquered one of my biggest fears. One of my biggest fears is heights. And I find myself, I almost had a panic attack the night before. I didn't have a panic attack, but it felt like I was just so sick, stressed, like it was just overwhelming the night before I did my first jump. Even the towers, I was scared to death that we were going to do the towers. Thankfully, it was too windy and we didn't have to, but the towers are these really, really tall. It's like 250 feet or something like that. You get pulled up by your parachute, and then it just lets you go, and you float to the ground. So I mean, not that big a deal, but it scared me because I hate heights. And then now I'm jumping at 1,200 feet above the ground out of an airplane, but I did it, and I accomplished it, and I felt good. It did, and I felt that boost in confidence. So I'm building some self-confidence there. But the answer, am I good enough? Am I really a man? That wasn't getting answered. That was still just so tore up inside of me. Like I just didn't feel confident, didn't feel that was really true. Did Special Forces Assessment and Selection. I did some really great physical training, passed all the physical training to get there. But then I failed selection, and anytime there's a failure that seems to prove that you're not good enough, man, it impacts you so much more and becomes so much more difficult. So then I did RASP, and it was hard, whatever, got recycled, but I got through it. I passed RASP, and I was like, yes, that was a good accomplishment. I did it. So some guys had to go through Colerain's one time. I did it twice. I'm twice as dedicated and motivated to be here and accomplish what I had to do. I went to Ranger School. That wasn't easy, but I achieved that. So I'm doing all these tasks that seem very manly and difficult, but they're not answering the question, am I good enough? And that just didn't make sense. I'm like, why not? Like, that was the whole point. So that's what led me to discover something. So remember when I was just talking about how if you're born a male, you can't change that? If you were born with biological equipment to be a male, congratulations. You're a man. And I mean that wholeheartedly. There's nothing you can do to lose your man card, to not fit into the role as a man. Through society, through your family, whatever. But most importantly, in your own mind, you're a man. And you need to understand that. I think there's this lie that we grow up thinking, many of us, not all of us, but many of us, especially the ones of us that struggle with this identity here, that we need to achieve something before we can be a man. And every time you perform something, it just gets more overwhelming because it's like, wait, why do I still feel this way? but you don't need to perform some awesome task. You don't need to fight in a war. You don't need some royalty to knight you. You're a man, just because that's how you're born. I would say that's how God made you. Now there's a lot more to that. This is the foundation. Now you say, okay, well, the series over. You just told me I'm a man. Well, there's a lot to being a man, I think. And that's where it's not that you become more of a man or less of a man. It's that you begin to become more like what you're meant to be, your purpose. It's, we have a target. We're just shifting our sights closer and closer and closer to that target, to try and get on point to where we were really made to be. Now, you're still. I just made a reference of if you're a rifle, right, and you have a target, we're just aligning our sights with that target. You're still you're still the man. You're still a rifle, whatever. But our goal, who we were kind of we were made to shoot that target. The following series are just going to be things to help you align with that target and align with kind of who you were created to be. Sorry, I just came up with that reference, but I think it worked. All right, well, like I said, the blog has the series a week before. It comes out a week before. I think I'm posting, 6 days before. I'm posting those on Wednesdays, and these hopefully will be every Tuesday. So I'm glad you're here. Next week we'll be talking about owning your battle space, personal responsibility. I think that's a big topic when it comes to just to align ourselves with that target of who we want to be. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for being awesome.